There's a distance between us. It's getting hard to reach out. Haven't seen you in seasons, but all I hear is your voice. I know my limits, you can break me down, but I'll stay till the finish line. And I've been counting minutes for quite some time now, just to see you again. And I've been counting days to get away, to see you again, see you again. Been fighting ways to get away, to see you again, see you again. We got millions of reasons to let it all go. Hope we're not too broken. I know I'm not always strong, and I've been counting days to get away, to see you again, see you again. Been fighting ways to get away, to see you again, see you again.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Gin College Podcast. I'm your host, John J. II, here with Taven Thuma.
Hi.
Taven, how are we doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. We have a sweet 16 birth on our hands, and it's 50 degrees, so I can't complain.
Yeah, we can't complain, and there's no snow on the ground, thank God, fingers crossed. But we're both from Michigan, so we know that anything can happen, even that we're approaching April here. So it is the Christmas season, though. We're in March Madness. We're in the thick of it, and we're really excited. I guess, what are your first impressions on March Madness? How's your bracket looking? Give us some insight.
My bracket before we started the round of 32 was at 85%, but we are no longer there. So mid-tier, my main pick to win is still going live, which is keeping me strong. And I even have one of my matchups was only an 8% pick, and I feel pretty proud of that. So not too bad.
Wow, I feel pretty honored to be talking to an 8%er right now. This is crazy, but who do you have winning it all? Let me just ask you. Is it even a question?
No, every year, because I don't do March Madness competitively, because in my head, I have to pick Michigan State to win every year. And if I don't, I feel like dirty about it, assuming someone else is better than there. I will say the year we went to the Final Four, I should have put it into into like a bracket challenge with like friends because I had two brackets. One was in the 99th percentile, one was in the 98th before going
Wow.
into the final four. And I was showing everyone. I was at the bar like, look at me, I'm better than you. Just like so amped up. I was watching way too much college basketball at the time, so I really felt like that was the trick. But other than that, I just like to
Okay.
play it for fun. I kind of just sit there and I'm like, I can get through the main beef and potatoes of it, but the moment we start getting to the sides, I'm like, could be you. Not really
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah,
So,
very true. Wow. I mean, being in the 99th percentile when you're going into the final four, I mean, that's almost impossible. It's like seeing a unicorn in the woods, right? So, pretty impressive stuff right there. She's got Michigan State win it all. I kind of feel the same way. I've done that almost every year until this year. And that kind of violates my cardinal rule of betting with my heart over my head. And I'm like,
yeah.
oh, this is the Christmas season. I got to really put my thought into this, put my, personal thoughts and personal hopes and dreams aside because, I'm trying to win it all. And I'm in a couple bracket challenges where we're throwing a little bit of money around, and, we're trying to win it all over here. So I got Houston winning it all. Okay.
Ooh,
Don't
bold.
throw tomatoes at me, but,
No, I get it.
yeah, but I don't know. I guess I was doubting the Michigan State Spartans. We're going to go into depth talking about them here soon, but I was just really doubting them after their Big Ten tournament performance. I guess what made you say you were picking it completely blindfolded? You had no prior biases going into your picks. What would make you want to pick Michigan State?
Oh man, I just think when you have a coach who has developed a program, who has the nickname Mr. March, who is, I think, a developer. A, Amongst every other thing, I think his top thing is development. I think when you have a coach that has a proven track record like that, a legendary track record, it's very easy for someone to pick Michigan State when you're going off that basis. And I will tell you, I do have Houston going pretty far in my bracket. I was a little concerned because I know their star player has been battling some, I think it's quad or hammy problems. But I do want to let you know I
Yeah.
did have them go pretty far. So
Okay, that's
we're in
good
the
to
same
hear.
boat there.
Well, you're an 8%er and a 99th percentile bracket creator, at least in the past. So that's good to hear. But yeah, they've been battling some injuries quite a bit throughout this season, and especially in March Madness. So for them to continue on and pull off making an Elite Eight bid or even a Final Four bid is going to be a lot to be desired going forward. But we just gotta focus on the future, and a lot of crazier things have happened. That's why they call it March Madness, because it's exactly that. It's madness. It's crazy stuff. So we're excited going into the Sweet 16. We're going to do a Sweet 16 preview too towards the end of the show. But let's go into some games. We're going to pick and choose here out of a hat some matchups that were really impressive. So obviously, story of the week. Fairleigh Dickinson becomes just the second 16 seed to knock off a number one seed in tournament history with a win over Purdue, 63-58. Huge win for FDU. I was looking at Twitter, and you probably saw this too. But if you saw the whiteboard in the Purdue locker room, you would have been amazed just to see how Matt Painter really. I think he took his anger out on that whiteboard. I mean, there's a big ass hole in that whiteboard. It could have been one of the players too. It could have been an Edie haymaker, but I don't know. I guess what do you have to say about that game and that big win for FDU?
One, I will say, I became an FDU fan because their coach honestly just seems like a sweetheart. He talked about how he needed to do more laundry. He's like, "Oh man, I guess I got to do some more laundry," because obviously you're coming in as a 16 seed, playing a top-ranked Purdue who had done great things in the Big Ten championship. I think it was fantastic to see another 16 seed. You always love to see an underdog story when your team's not the top one. I will say, for the whole like whiteboards, clipboards, you got to get it out somehow. I mean, March Madness is a time where everyone's not only like rooting hard and dying for their team. You're the coach, you're the players, you're out there. And if I was a 1 seed and lost to a 16 seed, I would probably punch or headbutt a whiteboard, break a clipboard. I get it. Like, I'm not going to dog anyone for that. I will say the funniest thing is, I was out to dinner with some friends, and I was at this big food hall, and it's 2 stories tall, and they have this giant LED board, and they, if there's a big game on, they'll put the game on. So they had the Purdue Fairleigh Dickinson game, and that place was cheering so hard for the 16 seed. There was no Purdue fans there, which then brings the question to me, does Purdue have fans?
That's a good question.
Because honestly, I've never out in the wild met a Purdue fan just like, oh, I'm a Purdue fan. Oh, what? I think there was
neither
one
have I.
person I've seen wearing a Purdue shirt once in Chicago. But like, my problem is, the crazier thing is Fairleigh Dickinson is the shortest team in all of NCAA.
Yeah, I noticed
And
that.
Purdue is one of the tallest because, Purdue's whole mantra is your son over 7 feet tall? Here's a scholarship. So I just think Purdue really, really laid on Zach Edey to be tall and didn't expect to have some small town 16 seed come out of nowhere. I loved the pictures on Twitter of the Fairleigh Dickinson gym versus the Purdue arena.
Oh, yep.
How much they put money in, just to show that, yeah, sometimes, you go to a small school, but every dog has their day. And Fairleigh Dickinson, I think, put up a great fight. I was really rooting for them in the second round to be the the first 16 seed to get out of the weekend. I really wish they would have done something. However, you gotta root for the little guys sometimes, and it was extra sweet being that it was Purdue.
Yeah, they almost had enough to beat FAU, the Florida Atlantic Owls. They almost had enough in the tank to do it,
Great
but FAU, they pulled it out. But big win. They have a lot to hold their head up high for. Yeah, I mean, you underestimate being a Purdue team. Everyone's 7 feet tall, and maybe a couple 6'5", 6'8" guys on there sprinkled in. But this Fairleigh Dickinson team, very fast, very quick on their feet, and that agility. I mean, speed kills. They say that applies in football, but it definitely applies in basketball as well. And we really saw that showcase against Purdue in the first round. So you can't count out the 16 seeds, and it's becoming more and more true. And this year more than ever, I think we can say that you can take two teams, pick them out of a hat, regardless of the seeding, and they can have a great chance to beat anybody. Anybody can beat anybody, and it's just it's that type of year, especially for the Big Ten, but also really across the board. It's really proven to be that way.
I will say this is probably the craziest tournament I've seen in a long time in terms of great games, like a lot of very, very close games. Of course, there's been a few blowouts, but this March Madness, I have been like glued to the TV watching because there's just such good games on. I love the good back and forth. I think, the 16 seed winning it really, kind of puts out, I got to see what's going on now. However, there's been a few blowouts, but man, these close games really, you got your popcorn, you're just hanging out. Oh, it's been great for a good basketball time. I can't ask for better right now.
I know, because you even have like a minute left, and a team could be up or down 10 points, and then next thing you know, you get a 4-point play, a foul, and a 3-point make, and it's just like these there's 20 seconds left, but this team's still in it. They're not giving up. And they can seriously be in the game going into the last 30 seconds of a game, even if they're down 5 points. So it's and we all know what happened. We don't have to dig up old skeletons, but we know what happened with 43 seconds with the Spartans against Iowa. What they could do, being down, I think what were they down 11 or 12, and they just came back and got us into OT and had their way with us. But we won't talk about that.
We won't talk about that.
We'll just let that. We're moving on. We're moving on from that. We have moved on, and we're in a great spot. You can hear a little bit of pep in my voice. That's for good reason. It's all by design, and we're going to talk about that here soon. I want to talk about something else that I was very happy I picked. I picked Furman to get the upset over Virginia. Virginia, they're either in the NIT or they're really high seeded. And I say high being a low number, right? But they just can't perform in the month of March for whatever reason. They just don't have what it takes to do it, and this is going to sting for the Virginia Cavaliers for a long time. Game-winning 3. Furman with their first NCAA tournament appearance since 1980. You got to give it up for Furman. And I remember being in the student section at Michigan State. It was that first game of the year, and it says F Furman. They, the rest, right? So. Obviously it was a blowout, right? Spartans are going to win that game, but that's how I remember the name Furman. I'm like, okay, let's just go ahead and throw them in there because you got to pick the upsets when you're doing a bracket challenge or making a bracket. I actually made, I think, close to 20 brackets, and they're all like in the 30th percentile. So we'll leave that be. But I had to throw Furman in there as one of my upsets. That was one of the few ones that I picked in my main bracket that was correct. I was watching that happen live, and I was jumping up and down. What do you have to say about that one?
Man, as someone, if you're a Virginia fan, you lost as the 1 seed last year, or was it 2 years ago now, to the 16 seed.
Yep.
You lost
2.
It was 2 years. Then you lose to a 4 seed, or you're the 4 seed. You lose to a 13 seed. Are you afraid you're going to pull a Purdue and lose to a 16, 15, and 14, or maybe it was a 13, I don't know, another double-digit team? Do you start watching film of like small schools and see what they do differently? I think it's hilarious as someone who, wants all the big guns out so my team can have an easy way in. I think it's hilarious that you have such a high-ranked team, but you come to a smaller school. You're like, oh, we've been playing basketball. You have kids who go to Virginia who are 4- or 5-star recruits. Not to dog on Furman, but do they have many of these 4-star, 5-stars, even a 3-star recruit? You get, and I think the big perk about March Madness is you get one good lucky shot or one bad shot. That's the game. And I think Virginia kind of played with, I think they played cocky. I think they were like, oh yeah, we're 4 seed. We've had a great season. We're playing this like nobody 13 seed. And I think they just realized too late, oh shit, these guys can actually play basketball.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you saw how they performed cool-headed into the final seconds of that game, doing trap defense. The guy throws a crazy pass into the midsection of the court, steal to a pass to a quick 3 as time expires, makes it and wins the game. So, I mean, you can't undermine these low seeds, these higher numbered seeds, in the double digits. You can't undermine them, and I think that is a good idea, is to watch film, especially if you are a high seed, if you're Virginia, if you're a UCLA, if you're Kansas, which is out, Kentucky even, which is out. Some of these teams that they're all out now. I think about the Champions Classic teams, right? The Dukes, the Kentuckys, and the Kansases, which are all out. I mean, State's the only one left out of those 4. Mm-hmm. But you got to watch these lower seeded teams because they're doing something special to get to the big dance. And obviously there's a select amount to, choose from those lower tiered D1 schools, those non-Power 5 schools, just to make to stir the pot a little bit in March Madness. And they're there for a reason. They're going to have those higher seeds numbers more times than not. So you see them perform, you see them come out and play well, and that's why we see so many of these upsets. And I think we've seen a abnormal amount of upsets in this year's March Madness, especially within the first few rounds of the tournament. But I love it, man. I love seeing it. Trust me.
I think the greatest thing about the lower or the higher ranked teams, those smaller schools, is they're super creative and no one expects them to go to the next round. And I think they have that, like, we're just here to have a good time and to play some good basketball. They don't have the reputation of being a Virginia, a Kansas, a Duke, a Kentucky, where they're expected to go so far. You play for a 13 seed. It's like, maybe we'll see you Sunday. Maybe I'll go home. I'm just here. I'm happy to be here. So I think that also plays into it, where those guys, I think, in those smaller schools, they're like, okay, this is my time to shine. I got to give everything that I got. And I think that's not saying that the higher seeds don't do that, but I honestly think the chip on their shoulder is a great motivator. I mean, so many schools are like, I prefer to play with the chip. I prefer to be the underdog because then they have nothing to lose. Furman losing to Virginia, huge thing for Furman, crazier thing for Virginia. But if Virginia would have beat Furman, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Exactly.
That's what Virginia's expected to do. So I think those smaller schools are just like, you know what, I'm here. Let's do something crazy. Let's try anything and everything.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point to bring up too, because you got these teams that are not favored to win. They have essentially nothing to lose. Like you said, the FDU coach said, "Oh, I didn't bring enough laundry to make it through the weekend. I thought, I got to go buy clothes now."
Yeah.
And stuff like that. That really brings that mentality to light because they're not expecting to make it too far. They're just happy to be there. They're just happy to be there. These other teams are like, oh man, we're seniors. We gotta win this game, and they're almost playing on eggshells essentially. So they're not going to take those risky shots. They're going to be getting gun shy when they're missing, especially from out by the perimeter. And if your star players aren't doing well, you could get real, scared about that, and essentially you're just going to crumble under the pressure because you know that you can't do it alone, and it's just how the cookie crumbles when we see it happen time after time, and these teams that are ranked so well, they crumble and they lose to teams that you'd never expect them to lose to on paper, but you see them lose to them time after time. And we're going to see it happen more, I think, going into the Sweet 16. We're not done with that mentality of the upset, the upsets coming through. So they're still going to happen. They're even going to happen going into the Elite Eight, I'm afraid. So that's just the tale of March Madness. And that's why the Selection Sunday Committee, the selection committee, they throw those teams in there. They're going to say, hey, how are you going to perform on a stage like this against teams that are Power 5, big-time teams that have maybe won championships before, that are ranked very well? How are you going to do? How are you going to perform? So that's a test for them. And if they rise to the occasion and succeed, everyone's going to remember their team forever. Like a St. Peter's or an Oral Roberts. Like nobody heard about them before last year, but now everyone's talking about them. They're picking them as upsets. Didn't see St. Peter's in the big dance this year, but we saw Oral Roberts, and we've seen them be picked as upsets, and obviously they picked wrong this year. But you're going to remember that program, that school, for years to come. That's just how it is. That's how you become on the main stage, is getting a win or getting a stretch of wins in March. So,
I mean, there's a team that's going on an upset cruise right now, and that's Princeton.
That's right. Big win over Arizona in round one. And Missouri.
They actually beat Missouri by 15.
Yeah, that wasn't a close win. That was a big win. That was dominating.
Yeah, so I love to see, these, I don't want to call Princeton a smaller school. They're an Ivy school. They're established and things like that. But in terms of, March Madness and basketball, smaller school. But a fun fact for you, that after Princeton's round one win and the Princeton women's basketball round one win, it was the first time in history that an Ivy League school had a win in both the men's and the women's tournament in the same year.
Wow.
So, shout out to them. I think it's always super cool when you have an Ivy League team kind of sneak in there. Now they're going to the Sweet 16, so I think they are going to be an upset to watch. And it's been really fun to watch that upset. I think they're just there to have fun. They play in the Ivy League. No one has academic scholarships. They're all there. So I mean, they don't have athletic scholarships. Excuse me, because academics is the focus there. But
right,
it's just great to watch. I think they are going to be one to watch. Do I think they make it past the Sweet 16? Yet to be determined, because they're playing Creighton, who I think has just been on. They've been on fire recently, and I think they're another one of those weird schools that's solely a basketball school.
Mm-hmm.
But they're always fun to watch. So I love the little upset. I think their dance may come to an end, but if they go another round, hey, I'm rooting for them.
Hey, it has a high probability of happening. They're one of our showcase games, which we're going to talk about a little bit more in depth in our Sweet 16 preview. But for now, let's go ahead and talk about the Michigan State Spartans. Let's talk about their run so far. How far have they made it? Taven's got the green and white on right there, looking great. This is almost a Cinderella story with this team, with everything they've gone through, from losing, as I previously mentioned, to Ohio State, which played since Wednesday. State got a first round bye, maybe a second round bye in that tournament, and they lose. They lose to Ohio State, the Buckeyes, which they smoked them in the regular season. And they were playing animated. They were playing very activated, the Ohio State Buckeyes were. And they won that game, but I think a lot of insiders, outsiders, whoever you want to call them, they downplayed that loss for Michigan State. And I was very critical of the Spartans going into the big dance, because this is before brackets even came out. This is before Selection Sunday, all that stuff. And I'm like, this team isn't ready. This team isn't ready for a March Madness tournament, and they proved me wrong yet again. What do you got to say about them?
So going back to the Big Ten tournament, they did get the double bye. We had to play Ohio State, which was the pick I wanted. I wanted Ohio State over Iowa because of what, over my shoulder in the past
Mm-hmm.
over there. But there is a statistic that it's really hard to beat the same team 3 times. I will say, even though Ohio State didn't make the big dance, from the time that we played them up until the tournament time, I don't know what their coach did, if they gave them some of that, Michael's special sauce from Space Jam, because
Could be.
that was a whole different team. And I will say it was actually pretty refreshing to watch a good game like that. I was upset with the ending, and I was very nervous, very, very nervous for the tournament. I knew we were still going to get picked. It wasn't like, oh, I'm scared we're going to go to the NIT. I was just worried to see who was, because we were going to be in that weird 7 to 9 spot.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I think, one of the toughest parts to be, is that right there in the middle. You're at the top of the bracket. You're playing a small school. You're expected to win. But when you're playing in that middle range, 7 plays a 10, 8 and 9 play each other, which means you're playing a team that is just as good as you are. And I got really, really nervous. But then I saw we got USC, who's been not that great this year in basketball. That was a breath of fresh air for me. However, I think this team has, even though we're not shooting well right now, we're still somehow kicking ass. And the one thing that I think we've been really strong at is defense. We have been playing some fantastic defense. I remember when Malik Hall came back from injury, and I watched that game and I was like, holy shit, like, he may not be shooting very well, but this defense is insane. I think we've finally mastered defense. I also think that we've been hitting, except for that one game, we've hit a ton of free throws. I think this is one of the most successful free throw teams Michigan State's had in a long time, except for, the game that we missed 7, but what are you going to do? But I think the thing is that this team doesn't give up. I think that they have great team leadership from AJ Hogard and Tyson Walker. I really think Madi Sissoko, even though he has had an up and down season, I think when it comes to playing in the spotlight, Madi Sissoko is like, oh, I'm just gonna let my body do what it needs to do. Like, it's there. There's some of the regular season games, or even in the Big Ten tournament, he was kind of like, but it comes to those shining moments, and this man's like, oh, I'm gonna block ya, see ya. And I think it's, the kids know when to turn it on. It's been tough. I think the unfortunate acts that happened in a critical basketball time, and not saying that like basketball is the cure all be all, but I really think, as expected, that kind of threw them as an expected loop. I wouldn't be able to play basketball like that for a long time. So mad respect to them to be able to pick themselves up, come together as a team. I think they are such a cohesive team right now. I really think that we have some weak spots, and usually we're a great 3-point team. They said that we're the 3rd best 3-point team in the nation right now, which is a great thing to be when you're shooting well. But I think when the guys realize they're not shooting well, that's when they're like, okay, their defense caps comes on, and they're playing some of the best defenses I've seen in college basketball in a long time. And it's so nice to see us actually making some great stops, forcing turnovers to teams that don't usually turn it over. It's refreshing when we force them to turn over the ball instead of the other way around.
Yeah, you make a lot of great points there, and especially about the defense. The defense has really turned it on. They've went 0 to 100, I would say, from that Ohio State game until now, until really they started in the March Madness tournament against USC in the first game. It really showed. It even grew in that game and was really showcased in the Marquette game.
Tough game.
Yeah, really tough game. Making shots from outside the arc, big time. AJ Hogard still, I think he should be in the gym. They just arrived in New York. So I think he should be, say, okay, let me put my bags away. Let me get dressed. If I'm Izzo, I'm saying, AJ, get your ass in the gym. You're shooting free throws, okay?
Yeah.
Because he was a helper that helped miss a lot of those free throws against USC. Which, if that's a close game, I mean, that could be the game right there. Yeah. Okay, we thank God we won both of those games by a significant margin. Okay, and when I say significant, it's by more than 2 or 3 points.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we're over 10 even, if not exactly 10. We won by 9 against Marquette. Excuse me. So it's a significant margin, more than 3 points. We'll say that. We'll agree on that. that's not normal really for this Michigan State team to win by that significant of a margin. It's in flashes. To quote DK, he's a big actor there on Spartan Twitter. You might know him, SpartanHoops.com. Big shot guy talking about Michigan State basketball. He talked about, and Don Starr talked about this too. This Michigan State team has shown us success in flashes, and this is something. This is a flash. We're seeing a flash right now of success. I'm hoping this flash we can ride this flash out a little bit more. I could give a shit about my bracket from this point on. Okay, let's see Michigan State make it, and I told the people this on Twitter. I'm going to shave my eyebrows if State wins a natty. So I'm almost rooting for that to happen. I know a lot of people are, so we'll see what happens.
Hey, I can show you how to draw on some eyebrows if you need, okay?
I might need your help on that.
They make tattoos now, by the way. You can get little actual tattoos to put on there.
That's great.
I'll order you some from Amazon.
Oh, you're the best.
I will say it has been nice. So we beat USC by 10 points and then Marquette by 9. So great margin in consideration to this March Madness. I'd say on average people are only winning by 3 to 5 points. So to see us kind of be out there, I think is really putting a thing. I think Marquette, man, that game was tough. We came out hot. I think that's a big thing we do is we come out really hot and then we are like, oh, we're up by 15. We can coast. When in reality, it's like, no. Keep shoving it down their throat. That Marquette game got a little dicey there for a hot minute. I would like to shout at the kid that chirped me or attempted to chirp me in my DMs. He did tell me that Marquette was going to put, in his words, Tom Izzo's bum ass into retirement. And this was during the time during the game where it was a 3-point swing back and forth either way.
Oh yeah, it was back and forth for a lot of that game.
I'm during the game. I'm not on my phone. I can't touch my phone. It's just kind of like I gotta focus. And throughout him chirping me via Instagram, which I'm not responding to because the game's on, I watched his brain go from like ha 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 Marquette's gonna win to oh shit Marquette's gonna lose, which was a great thing to watch via Instagram DMs. But that just shows so many people I think count Michigan State out. Especially because we're not a team built to score right now. Our main thing is we're playing up much like Big Ten football, defense. You don't need to score as much when you have great defense.
Right.
We're lacking on McQuaid or we have Tyson Walker, who I think emulates some aspects of Cassius Winston, but I think to me Cassius Winston's one of the best basketball players to ever play at Michigan State in terms of college ball. I'm still sad about him not being able to play in the 2020, March Madness.
Yeah, devastating.
Devastating. We'll say he did just win a natty with his German team, so congrats to them.
Well, there you go.
Big shout out to them. But I will say, I think this Michigan State basketball team is playing we have the chip on our shoulder. They have the great foundation of being Michigan State. They have Tom Izzo, who I think is one of the most passionate coaches on any sports. And I think when you have someone who cares, and I think these guys are really seeing how much Tom Izzo cares about Michigan State, but not only Michigan State, but cares about them as men. I really think when you have that level of respect and understanding with your coach, and you're going through these phases where we play great basketball, I really think that could really take us far.
Yeah, I think so too. And you'd rather be behind a coach like Izzo or be playing under a coach like Izzo in this situation. He's not a foreign actor to this situation. Okay, Tom Izzo, he's used to being in this situation in this point in the game. And you're talking about 25 consecutive big dance appearances. Consecutively, which that takes up a big majority of his tenure at Michigan State. Okay, so we're in good company, basically, is what I'm saying. And I mean, you just can't doubt Tom Izzo this time of year. I don't know. I really want to be looking back at this show right here and be like, damn, we were talking them up and they wound up winning it all. I'm not going to get ahead of myself. I'm not going to jinx anybody, but ixnay all that. But we just want them to do well, play well. They've already exceeded my expectations. So if it all ended tomorrow, then I'm happy. I'm still over the moon with this Michigan State team with the ability Tom Izzo has embodied his team with and put his whole effort onto this team and everything he's got. And he really does the best of squeezing the most out of out of every team, especially in the month of March. He's exceptional at that. And we're seeing that happen right before our eyes here in 2023. So a lot of amazing things to come. Still a lot to happen in this March Madness tournament, and we're very excited for it. Let's do a quick preview of the Sweet 16 going forward. Let's talk about the Princeton-Creighton game. Creighton -10. Keys for Princeton to win this game. Obviously, Creighton by far is a basketball school. Okay, I don't even know if they have a football program. If you try to play football there, they say no, just go try to play basketball.
Yeah.
Okay, you're a big man. We need you down low. Okay, so that's the school Creighton is. Keys for Princeton: attack the glass, hold your own on the interior. Obviously, that's going to be big against a team like Creighton. What do you think it's going to take for Princeton to stay in this game, especially with a spread like 10 points favoring Creighton?
Oh, man. I see. The thing is, I don't know. I want to root for Princeton so hard. I just don't know if they can do it. Because Creighton, again, has that basketball school legacy. I just think with that 10-point spread, though, is tricky. That's where you start to think, oh, are they being cocky? I really think if Princeton can really hold their own, get some nice threes, and just really play in the paint, I really think the paint is where you can draw some easy fouls. And I really think if your free throw game is up to par, I think that can make you competitive. I really think this will be a game to watch, especially with Princeton upsetting some pretty big teams. I want to give Princeton the benefit of the doubt. It's just, I don't know. I definitely will be tuning into this game. This will be definitely one of the games I make sure I watch because I think it's going to be closer than 10 points. I think it could really go either way.
Yeah, I do too. And that's the important thing to note here too, especially my sports betting people out there. I know I got people in the Discord that talk a lot of sports betting and things like that. People are in my DMs about, oh, who you got this weekend, and I'm just like, especially for March Madness betting, take all these spreads, all these games with a grain of salt, a big grain of salt. Okay, like maybe if you have a Himalayan salt lamp, just take a bite out of it because that's what you need for this, because nobody can pick a spread in a March Madness basketball game, people. Come on now. I mean, it's too hard to pick. It's hard to pick a college basketball spread in the regular season or even in the conference play, but let alone March Madness. I mean, they got to just be scratching their heads, be like, oh, throw 3.5 points on there. Oh, 4 points. Oh, we'll give them 5. Give them 5. And they're just screaming across the room like angry animals, or you know what I mean? So just take it with a grain of salt. I don't think the 10 points really is going to come into play a whole lot. Vegas isn't on point with these March Madness spreads, so just take it with a grain of salt. I think this is going to be a closer game than Vegas has it. I would definitely take Princeton to cover this game.
Yeah.
So that's going to be my pick from the outside looking in, just looking at it. Moving on, let's talk about Gonzaga and UCLA, a 3 seed versus a 2 seed. UCLA -2. Obviously, the key for the Zags is going to be Drew Timme. What's it going to take for the Gonzaga Bulldogs to win? It's going to be Drew Timme surrounding his team around him. It's going to have to be revolving around him. What do you think it's going to take, obviously, against a matchup like Jaime Jaquez and Tiger Campbell over there at UCLA? Obviously, this is going to be a dogfight. We're saying it lightly.
Oh, yeah. First off, if you have 35-year-old Drew Timme on your team, I would just let him coach, honestly. I think the man has enough basketball experience for anyone. I really actually don't think – I think Gonzaga is going to win this game. I do not think UCLA is going to win.
Really?
Yeah, I think Gonzaga is really going to do it.
Okay.
I'm not – okay, UCLA always had a pretty decent team. I think Drew Timme with the Zags, I think – they are just really going to feed him and feed him and feed him and feed him. He's the key to their win. I also think when you've been playing in the tournament for 70 years, you kind of pick up some tips of the trade. And I really think that he has the ability. He is so smart basketball-wise. I think he's really going to be the difference. I think Jaime Jaquez and UCLA is just going to come up short. And by short, I mean 1 point at the buzzer short. I really think Gonzaga.
Really, that close?
I think Gonzaga can take them. I really think it's going to be up to the wire. I do not see this game being a blowout. I really think it's going to be a dogfight, but I don't think UCLA has the stamina to finish strong.
Wow, interesting. Very well said, but very interesting as well. Obviously, you got 40-year-old Drew Timme out there. I was trying not to laugh, but I was thinking about Stetson Bennett, and the Georgia Bulldogs, and then I thought of the memes that were coming out about Perry Ellis playing for Kansas way back when. And there's pictures with him with Larry Brown, and he's just like in these ancient pictures that are black and white, these team photos, and then edited very well. Hats off to those Photoshop gurus, but it's just so funny, man. And the Drew Timme story is really it's a Gonzaga story, and you're seeing two really regimes clash, and you're seeing two very experienced. At least both these teams have very experienced players on their teams. Maybe they're not extremely experienced overall. But for the most part, I guess you can go on a limb and say these teams are experienced teams, especially in the month of March. Talking generally, they're ready to play. From UCLA playing in the play-in tournament to making it to the final game, and Gonzaga making a run year after year and having a little bit of a struggle this year than we've seen in years past. For them to pick it back up and to get some big wins, it's been huge for them, and that's almost a Cinderella story within itself. It's crazy we're talking about these teams that were, previously very strong, very prominent teams that had a really good high potential to win, where we're almost talking like they're Cinderella stories, like nobody expected it to happen. But that's just the story of how this year's been, and it really embodies that. So it'd be a Cinderella win, I think, for Gonzaga if they pull this one off against the 2 seed UCLA. So anything can happen. UCLA -2. What do you got if you had to bet it?
Ooh, if I had to bet it, I'd probably take Gonzaga to cover.
Okay, the 2 points. Hey, it could come down to a single point.
Yeah,
or at the very least, you push with the 2.
Yeah, I mean, I think because these two teams are so strong, they're both very legendary when it comes to March, and they have a lot of experience. I do see this, like you said before, being a dogfight, quite literally.
Definitely, I can see it happening as well. High potential for this game to be really close going into the dying embers. Let's go into one last game here before we sign off. I want to talk about the Florida Atlantic Owls against Tennessee and the Volunteers. Tennessee -5.5. I mean, FAU, they've made it this far, and obviously with them playing a team like Fairleigh Dickinson going into the Sweet 16, one of those teams was bound to make it. So that's great, but FAU, they're facing a serious team in Tennessee. And you can't really look at previous performance because we did that in the Big Ten, and you do that for any portion of the season, in conference play or not. And you can't. No game can define the next game, okay? Because you can say, oh, well, FDU beat Purdue, a 1 seed, and then Florida Atlantic beat FDU. Yeah. They can beat almost any team. Then it's not a cookie cutter world in the game of college basketball. So, I guess, who do you see winning this game? Do you think this one goes with what it says on paper, or do you see FAU pulling the upset?
I'm going to say Tennessee on this one. I think I got this one right. I think because Tennessee has such great ball control, they can really control the tempo of the game. I think if you are in control of the speed of the game, that's playing to your level, and that's how your team operates. So I think if they can control that, stay out of foul trouble, I think Tennessee can take this one. FAU, I think, is going to put up a fight, especially if they take it in. If you take it in the paint, Tennessee's not good. They don't really have that attack, that drive. However, because they like to play slow basketball, and that's fine. I think in this instance, the tempo of the game is going to control who wins.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be pace of play, who can keep up, who can withstand getting down 10 points and fighting your way back into the game. Because as we've seen, it's a slippery slope. Once you get into the 10, 15-point deficits, I mean, you can really lose track of that game early. You can lose track of the game even in the first half. So if you see that happen, if you see that trend starting to slip quickly, it could be bad news. And usually it's bad news for the lower seed in FAU in this case. So we're going to have to get that figured out. Lower seed, does that mean better or worse? I've heard both things. I've even heard analysts on CBS. They're talking, I don't know what that means. Oh, lower seed. Oh, are you talking about Purdue or are you talking about Fairleigh Dickinson? It's just like
no one knows.
No one knows. That's part of the madness. It's part of the scheme. We're just gonna roll with it. You guys get the gist of what we're trying to say. So at least we're explaining ourselves out here. Jeez, Pete. All right. I think that brings us to the end. Taven, you got any final thoughts, final words for people going into Sweet 16?
I do.
Okay.
So first off, I want to say it's a great tournament. I have a fun fact for everybody. I did see that since Michigan did not make the big dance, everyone who transferred from their school and went to a new school, that new school did make the big dance. So I would like to point that out. I also would like to say, you're welcome. I had to throw it in there. I'm sorry. I will also say Kansas State been playing great. Came out of nowhere. They have pretty lavender like warm-ups, bringing some flower power to the big dance. It's nice to see a light lavender going on, but I'm very nervous for tomorrow. I think they're gonna pull it off, hopefully, knock on wood. I really want them to. However, Kansas State, they've been kicking ass this tournament, and they've been really fun to watch. My delusional brain, Michigan State all the way. My like analytical smart brain, ooh, gonna clip my fingernails tonight so I don't bite them off. But
there you go.
I will say, Sweet 16, I think this is going to be a great matchup for the Sweet 16. Very excited. I think it's always so cool when they play in the Garden. But man, I can't have asked for a better March Madness. So to go from the tournament, no one watches the, I think, unless it's your conference tournament. So it's always really fun to see different styles of basketball. It's really fun to see now there's teams like Alabama and Houston and Miami making waves in the tournament, which historically they haven't. So I think this March Madness has been my favorite besides the 2019 March Madness. So.
Yeah, definitely. Just got to remember this. For Michigan State especially, they've already exceeded our expectations.
Yeah.
Okay? So they've already came out, they've performed, they've showed us their skills. Tom Izzo has done his thing yet again. And whatever happens from here on out, I'm not even nervous going into tomorrow. I'm ready. I'm like, let's just go play basketball. Let's just go have some fun out there. And I hope the guys are feeling that way too, because they play better when they're loose. They're playing like they're on eggshells. Yeah. They might as well not even take the floor. And, they should just go and take Kansas State's lavender flower power warm-ups and just take off, steal them. So it is what it is. All right, guys, that brings us to the end of the show. Make sure to get signed up for the GSN Challenge Forum. Sending it out to everybody. The two-man scramble happening June 17th, 2023 at Briar Ridge Golf Course in Montrose, Michigan. Get signed up ASAP. You get $20 off per team if you sign up before March 31st. Make sure to get signed up ASAP. If you need help finding a partner, let me know. And yeah, just enjoy basketball. Enjoy the week. We're progressing. We're moving forward. And before you know it, all this basketball will be gone. So we're still in the Christmas season right here with March Madness, and it's a great time to be interested, to be invested in the world of sports. So we're really happy to take you along that journey with us. So enjoy it, have some fun. But for now, I'm John J. II with Taven Thuma for the Gin College Podcast. Have a great night.
See ya.